Hey, folks, welcome back. Welcome back to the Virginia Democratic Small Business Talk Show. We're back on November the 30th. Yes, November the 30th. After the big Thanksgiving Day, starting up all that holiday season. I hope everything's going well with you. Happy to see you back here today. We got a fantastic guest. And he'll be on in just about 20 or so minutes after I do my regular spill. But I'm glad to see that you folks are back out there checking in on us. Hope you're taking care of yourselves. We always got to start with a little bit of just a little bit. We'll go up a little more. There we go. Good enough. Thank you, folks, for being here. We're getting ready to start it off. Let me take Bob down a little bit and slow him down a little bit, but great having him introduce what we're doing and basically keeping us in the right spirit to let you know that you're loved, and we're welcoming you back here, you small business owners, your democratic small business owners, people who are hoping soon to be business owners, and just supporters of small business owners and democratic ideals. Thank you for being here today. Woo, it was a long weekend last week, and I'm just happy to be back here doing what I do. So, folks, we got a great guest for you today. I'll introduce him, as I said, about 20 minutes into the show. We'll introduce him as we go through our regular spiel, and we talk about that stuff we have to keep talking about. We're getting closer. We're going to get there, folks. So, don't worry. We will get there. We're going to get, what I'm talking about, voting rights. We're here for the long game. We're going to make it happen. So anyway, before I get into that spill, I just want to check on you and make sure everybody's doing well. Last I heard, we are still in the middle of this COVID thing. So hopefully you folks are still, wearing your mask when you need to be wearing them, and you're keeping your distance when you need to be keeping your distance, and washing your hands, all that good stuff. Things have gotten a little bit better, but it takes a dip in the winter time when you have the regular flu and all other stuff around, and people tend to be more indoors. So anyway, do what you need to do. Get your shots, get your vaccinations, get your boosters, all that stuff. If you want to get it, hopefully you do get it. I've got mine. Hopefully you'll get yours. But welcome, folks. Welcome. Anyway, what I want to talk to you about also is that I hope that you had a good holiday. I hope you got to spend some time with family. You actually got to go and see them and spend some time, especially with the elderly folks that are out there that you don't get to maybe see that often. And hopefully, you want to talk to them while they're still here, walking around, or you can give them a hug and give them a kiss and let them know how much you love them. Hopefully, if you have kids and other relatives, you got a chance for them to come in from school, or if they live someplace else, you got to go see them, or vice versa. But just being in this holiday period is a fantastic time. And it really is. You got to be thankful that, the good Lord is keeping you here for another day, because he's got a job for you to do. He's got something where you need to be engaged. So stay engaged, folks. Stay engaged. There's much to come. We've already made it through one election on November the 8th. We had some success, as I told you the other prior episodes, but here in Virginia, it really never stops. It never, ever stops. There's elections every year in Virginia. So we don't get a break. There's either federal stuff or state stuff or local stuff, but every year there's an election. And so we're always active here with the Democratic Party here in Virginia, and also as Small Business Caucus members, doing what we can do as small business Democratic Caucus folks, trying to make things happen and support people who are supporting the ideals that we believe in. But more importantly, one of the things that I'm staying on, and I will continue to stay on it until we get it done, is voting rights, because that is the foundation of our democracy. I don't cover all the rest of the stuff I think you can talk about and you hear a whole lot about it on the major channels. Not comparing myself to MSNBC or CNN, or for you folks who have Sirius XM radio, they got different shows like Urban View, and all those major platforms are on there too. Listen, I just want to remind you about one thing, and then I'll move on to something else while we have an entertaining or an interesting guest that's going to be engaging and interesting. But I just want to continue just to tell that story about how important voting rights is to our democracy. The fact that it is the foundation of our democracy, and all good things flow from voting rights. I want to tell a story about how we got those voting rights. I want to tell a story about how we can maintain those voting rights. And I want to tell the story so that you all understand that it's not over. It is a long game, but it can be shorter every day. We do what we need to do to make sure we actually get things done we want to get done. So there we go. Also got my technology going off over here, folks. So that's something I'm trying to multitask for. I don't multitask very well. I'm actually doing something else while I'm talking. But anyway, listen, I'm going to jump right into it and talk to you once again about how we got to where we are today and what the history is, and why I need to keep saying it, because I'm hoping there's someone out there, and I know there's some folks out there that are listening, if not live, if when they get an opportunity to see it, because we stream on major platforms. We stream on Facebook, we stream on LinkedIn, we stream on YouTube, and we also stream on Twitter. Twitter. Well, I'll talk about that at a later time. Little challenges there with Twitter, I know. Won't talk about it now. But let's talk about that foundation of how we got to where we are and how we maintain, as I said, what we're trying to maintain. And what I'm going to talk about around voting rights again is the same thing I talk about, that basic trifecta of civil rights that we have in this country that kind of got us here after trying a whole lot of other crazy things, and eventually we got here, and then all of a sudden we kind of slipped back a little bit. But you know how it is, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But don't worry about it. As long as you're still in the game, as long as you're still moving ahead, it really doesn't matter. We want to just keep moving forward and keep being vigilant. So let me talk to you first about how we actually got there with that first of those 3 things surrounding your civil rights. And the first one we're going to talk about is the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So just to give you a little perspective, as I said before, I was born in 1960. So when I was born, and I'm not all that old, I'm 62, there was no Civil Rights Act. We were still basically living pretty much underneath Jim Crow, or post what you called what happened, the post why am I searching for this word and can't find it? I will find it in a second, folks, I promise you. But the Civil Rights Act of 1964, I will tell you what it is again. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And also it has provisions in that Civil Rights Act that also forbade discrimination on the basis of not only sex, but as well as race in hiring and promoting and firing. And doesn't that sound like a common thing? Yes, we're still working in those areas, but at least we have laws in the book, and it's constantly going back and forth about it with folks who don't quite agree with the 1964 Civil Rights Law. But before that, it was Jim Crow. People could treat you in different ways, particularly African Americans, would lived in the North or the South. If you didn't have this federal law that said, hey, here's an even playing field for everybody. If you're not doing these things, then here's what you ought to do. And it gave people actually something they could go to court over and sue and compel people to at least follow the law. You might not be able to change their hearts or their minds, but you can get them, because we are a country of laws, to follow the law. Okay. Now, what happened after 1964? We also had what is known as the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And this is what I talk about all the time. This act was signed into law after the Civil Rights Act that basically said everybody's got these basic civil rights in this country, even though the Constitution had made it clear. We had to actually pass a law just to make sure people understood that you couldn't do things like they were doing in the Jim Crow South at that time, and also other places up north. But let me talk about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It was signed into law on August 6th. Lyndon Baines Johnson, same guy who signed the civil rights law. It basically said you couldn't do discriminatory things and voting practices, which had been adopted in many southern states with the Jim Crow, which came about after the short period of Reconstruction. And after we had Reconstruction, which for a period of about 10 years after the Civil War, the Union troops were pulled out of the South. The deal was cut with the lawmakers in the North. And immediately after that happened, they went right back to doing what they were doing prior to the Civil War, which ended in 1865. So think about this for a minute, right? Things that they were doing at that time after the Civil War, which ended in 1865, they stopped doing because they couldn't do it because the Northern soldiers were there. But as soon as they left 10 years later, they started doing other things like literacy tests and other things which were prerequisites for people to vote. They not only had literacy tests, they had things like how many bubbles on a bar of soap, or they had the poll tax that they would charge, all kind of different things. Anything that they could do to discourage people from voting or to basically prevent them from voting. And when none of that worked, they did extra illegal things as far as terrorism, and actually attacked African Americans with the Ku Klux Klan and other organizations like that. I probably shouldn't say that. I shouldn't give it air, but it's true. It's our history. And if you don't learn from your history, you are bound to repeat it. That's why it's such a disappointment now that in 2013, which was in essence the whole heart of the Civil Rights Act of 1965, was a pre-clearance provision, which was taken away by the Supreme Court in 2013. Kind of felt the same way when same thing happened when we lost other rights. When they talk about Roe versus Wade and the whole thing's having to do with women's health care and privacy rights, as opposed to having those rights and then all of a sudden having those rights taken away from you. It's not a good thing. And that's the reason why we're talking about this, because voting rights are even more important, because the reason why the voting rights are so important because that's how we elect our local, and that's how we elect our state, and that's how we elect our federal politicians and lawmakers. So if you don't have the right to vote, and you don't have the ability to elect people in a republic like we have here in the United States to represent your views, because we have a representative democracy, remember, right? And what that is, if you were kind of dozing in your 12th grade government class, the United States has what's known as separated powers, right? And of government. Okay, we don't have a monarchy, we don't have an autocracy, we don't have a theocracy, we don't have kings or queens or anything like that. We have representatives that we elect and carry our wishes to the government for them to pass laws. Now, those three separated powers I mentioned earlier, you have the judiciary, which are the court systems, and you also have the legislative body. And the legislative body is the body which controls the purse and passes the laws, which includes the House of Representatives, and it also includes the Senate. So you have closer to you is your local congressional district representative. In each state, it has 2 senators federally. And then what you have after that is the executive, which is known as the presidency. So that's on a federal level. So once again, you have the judiciary, which is our court system. You have that on a state and local and federal level. We have our legislative bodies, which we have at a state and a federal and a local level. And we also have the executive, which is in charge and trusted to passing out enforcing the laws that are passed by the legislative body. We don't have a king. Just because a person is the president or the person is the governor or the mayor, those are all sort of executive offices on a local and on a federal and a state level. That doesn't mean they can do whatever they want to. They still have to follow the law. And they have to make sure that those laws are constitutional. And that's why we have a constitution in the United States that says, here's your rights as that you have in the Constitution of the United States. And you also have the Bill of Rights. And those laws have to be in accordance with those principles. Now, that's always been the problem, because how do you interpret those principles? And they seem to be interpreted different ways based upon what someone's particular view is at the time. And that's been the whole point of having the political situation and having the social situation that we have here in this country, and making sure there's good representatives from all parts of the community that have the opportunity to basically provide their opinion on what they think they need to do. So in order for that to happen, you need to be able to do that. Also, I'm having a little bit of problem here with my technology. I think my guest is also having a problem here too. So folks, hang on with me here for a second. This has happened before, and I'm just going to have to fix it. Looks like my guest is having a little problem. So you guys stay with me for a minute, and I'm going to try to fix this real quick. And I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to try this here for my guest. I'm going to tell him he needs to use this link. And I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to send it to him. Okay. All right. There you go. Okay. So hopefully he saw that. Anyway, so this is how it is when you have a live streaming show. You're going to have things just kind of, these humans, everything's going to happen. But let me get back to what I was talking to you about. We talked to you about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We talked about the Fair Housing Act. Excuse me, not the Fair Housing, but the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And I was explaining that to you in a little more detail. But finally, the last thing of that, the three basic laws that help give us our basic civil rights in this country that are important. The last one is the Fair Housing Act, which I just mentioned earlier. And the Fair Housing Act, I'm going to bring it up, is it basically expanded on the previous acts that I talked about with the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. And it said, now we're going to have to make sure everybody has a place to live and people don't do things they're not supposed to. So basically what it does is prohibited the discrimination of any discrimination concerning the sale, the rental, the financing of housing based on race, religion, national origin, or sex. And it was later amended to include handicap status and also family status, whether you're single or LGBTQ or whatever it is. But this was also known as Title VIII. And it's known to most people as the Fair Housing Act of 1968. So there you go. Let me take that off the screen and check my time here. We're making pretty good time here. Let me go in and tell you what we're doing to get these rights back, right? So first, let's talk about HR 4. This is what's going on right now. HR 4, it was passed by the Congress. It's known as the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And basically what this law does, it did in 2020, is it basically put that pre-clearance piece back into the law. It was passed by the House of Representatives on a federal level. Excuse me. And what this really does is it modernizes the Voting Rights Act formula for determining discrimination in states and localities. And also it allows people, it tells people that they can't make any changes to voting rules at least 180 days before an election. So if they try to do something within that 180 days windows before an election, they can't do it. There must be enough time for the government to be able to, and in this case, it's the Department of Justice, the Department of Justice on the federal level that does this clearance. And it basically gives the government authority also to send in federal observers to monitor jurisdictions for potential risks of discrimination at the polls during voting. So the John Lewis Voting Right Advancement Act has been passed by the Congress. It needs to get passed in the Senate so the president can sign it back into law, and that will repair the damage done in 2013 to the Voting Rights Act that was passed in 1965. Also, let me go ahead and tell you about the next one here. Here we go. I'm going to take that off screen and I'm going to bring on screen is here we go, HR 1, which is the For the People Act of 2021. In this, the House of Representatives passed this law to expand Americans' access to the voting, to the ballot box, and to reduce the influence of big money in politics, and to strengthen ethics rules for public service, and to implement other anti-corruption methods, anti-corruption measures, for the purpose of fortifying our democracy and other purposes. And I'll give you real quick, the bullets that you see there is expanded access to voting. And how it does that is there's automatic and same-day voting registration nationwide. It allows 2 weeks minimum of early voting for all voters. It bans purging of voter rolls, voter polls, and that's basically a form of voter suppression. What that basically means is when you vote in one election and you come to vote in the next election, let's say you skip a particular election at one time, you come at the following election, they purge your name from the polls, which means you don't know when you get there, you find out you can't vote. And you have to do what they call a provisional ballot. But what they're doing basically is making it difficult for people to vote and taking people's names off the voting rolls so they don't have an opportunity to choose their representative. Also, as I said before, it restores the protections of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which, as I said earlier, was taken away by the Supreme Court in 2013. So the HR 1 and HR 4, both by law, will put those things back into place to the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Also, it has other things like finance reforms, banning foreign money loopholes, money for election security and processes with independent commissions to prevent gerrymandering, and also grants to help states replace voting machines, and also additional processes for auditing and securing election results. So those are the things that are important that we put back into place. And, as you folks who've been paying attention and following, you also know that the Senate tried to confirm and pass some of these laws that the House of some of these bills that the House of Representatives passed, but we had a couple of let's just say problems that did not allow us to actually pass HR 1 for the People Act or the John Lewis Act, which was HR 4. But after this election, there's high hopes and high belief that we can get these laws passed. Because, as I said before, voting rights are the foundation of our democracy, which all good things flow. If you want to get things done, you got to have the ability to vote to get the people in there to pass the bills. And that goes for women's right to privacy, small business opportunities. It goes for college loans. It goes to the George Floyd Act for preventing police preventing police reform. People, I was trying not to say reform, but I'm going to say it anyway. Basically, it reforms how police have to act on a national level. But it actually should be a stronger word. It goes a little further than reform. But it's no point in talking about any of those bills, because none of them are going to happen if you can't vote. If you can't vote, it doesn't matter what bills are out there. If you're a small business and you need the government to put more money into things that, you know, should be opportunities for small businesses to put it on the small business angle, well, all that happens through allocations in the legislative body. If you don't have a voice there in your family, your business, and your interests will not be served. So that's why the Voting Rights Act is so important. It is the lifeblood of our democracy. So I always end up, and it's almost 7:30. I got to bring my guests on. We got a great guest, by the way. By telling you there's a call to action, right? There's a call to action. I'm asking you to do something. And there's some technology out there that helps to make that happen. And one of the technology is this app that you can download to your phone. It's called 5 Calls. It basically allows you to point out the different things, in this case, voting rights legislation, and it gives you all the information that you need and brings it right up on your phone. It allows you to make a call to your congressman to let them know that you're aware of the Voting Rights Act legislation that's been passed by the United States Congress, and you want them to support that so it can get to the president's desk for signature. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, if you know anything about these smartphones, well, I have an Android or I got an iPhone, whatever, no problem. There is an app for the Google or the Android phone. You can download it there. There's also an app for the iPhone or the Apple phone. You can download it there. It is a very good activism app. So your call to action is, you have the information I provided you. You need to get on the phone and basically say, hey, Mr. Congressman or Congresswoman, I know about these 2 voting rights acts that have been passed by the Congress. I need you to support them and make sure it gets to the president's desk for his signature, and make those same calls to your United States Senator to make sure it happens. So that's the least you can do. People do more, but that is actually the least you can do, is just make a call. And if you're pretty, if you're, you know, sort of plugged in already, you might already have these numbers in your phone. You may not even need the app. But anyway, I need to give you the information, so I did. Thank you for listening to me. And now I'm going to get off my pedestal or my soapbox about the Voting Rights Act, which I've talked about now for 75 episodes, 75 weeks. I'm going to keep doing it until we get this done, folks. It's important. So I'm going to start now by talking a little bit about the guests that we have coming on. I have a lot of different guests that come on here from many different walks of life, whether they be artists, or whether they be politicians or activists, or whether or not they're small business people, entrepreneurs, whatever the case may be. But I like to have people on that have something to say to the community. So that's why I'm going to start off by introducing our guest. We've got a great guest waiting in the wings, and I need to get him up here so you can hear a little more about what he does. So I'm going to start off by putting his picture up just so you know who he is. This is William P. Davis, and he's got a pretty impressive bio. I mean, I had to move my logo out the way to accommodate this guy's bio. So, but his name is William P. Davis. I met him I guess it's been over a year, and I call him Pierre. The P is for Pierre. Okay, so you hear me call him Pierre, I'm talking about that guy, and he's an Iraqi War veteran. And he's also an entrepreneur / cannabis or CBD consultant. He's a public speaker, and he does this for veterans for cannabis advocacy. And he's also, as I said before, a CEO. He's the CEO of Euphoria Eats, which is his company. And he is also an infused food expert for Southern. I'm going to screw this up. I think I'm gonna have Pierre. Please, I don't speak French too well, but I'm gonna say growers. Anyway, Pierre will fix it. Pierre is, as you can see to the right, Pierre's got some fantastic stuff over here for you to look at when he tells you that he has these products. These products are, as you can see, there's, well, I'll get into that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me finish his bio. Anyway, Pierre is from the great state of Texas, and his with Louisiana roots. Southern Greauxers was created, I'm killing that word, to provide entrepreneurs the opportunity to embark upon the cannabis business. And we talk a lot about the cannabis business on this particular podcast because for small businesses, this is one of the largest opportunities out there for small businesses to get in on the ground floor where there's a lot of ability for them to sell products and services to, which is a huge, at this point, $340 billion market and growing. And it isn't even, you know, the federal government hasn't been passed all the laws. Certain 20-some states have passed various different laws. But the good thing about it is it's right at the beginning. And if you're a small business person, or if you have a product or a service in this area, you can have an opportunity to make your mark. Now, let me tell a little more about Pierre's bio. His network relationships with business partners allow startups to gain access to resources needed to navigate their way through the industry. Pierre felt his company would be a good example for others because it's an uphill climb, and Euphoria has made that climb uphill in order to get onto the main stage. He believes he has something he can help others to be successful and to be and help him to be successful by telling them about his experiences. Pierre has his BA, he has his MBA. He started his entrepreneurial journey by initially doing catering, and he did competition cooking, and he created his own barbecue sauces. And he received applause and local awards for all of his tasty creations. Euphoria Eats Company provides gourmet, hemp, and CBD infused condiments, 13 flavors. Euphoria Eats condiments are award-winning, and you need to try them out. Anyway, he later created infused frozen entrees. One of the entrees you see on screen right now is red beans and rice and crawfish etouffee, and also he has it with sausage. His hemp is lab tested for quality from one of the premier labs in the United States. Hemp, just to give you a little more information about it, does not contain THC. You're probably saying, what is that? That's a tetrahydrocannabinol. And THC is that part of the plant that gives people this sense of euphoria. He has CBD in his product. I'll probably get this mixed up here. You can fix it for me later. But CBD is medicine and cannabis is medicine. It's used for, in this case, constipation, high cholesterol, eczema, or atopic dermatitis. It's used for arthritis and other conditions. Euphoria Eats was curated in the South, and it aspires to grow from a local to a national product provider. Their mission is give customers an alternative way to consume hemp/CBD. Euphoria Eats Company was also featured in some publication, Voyage Dallas, Lab Zero, which is in Japan, and also they were at the USA CBD Expo. As a matter of fact, I had also met Pierre at the Black Canacon, I believe, in 2020. And he's been there, and he also was in a competition down there, which he nearly won. And also, he's been endorsed by hip hop and food mogul Master P Reviews, and he gave him 9 out of 10 points for his products, and said he was the next up and coming company in the CBD market. And a little personal about Pierre is he's married. He has one child, and I just want you all to basically take your time to really give this gentleman a good clap on the stage. I'm about to bring in Pierre. Bring in Pierre, adding you to the stream.
Good afternoon.
Okay. welcome to
yes, sir. I'm happy to be here.
Small Business Package Show. And let me control my technology here. Man, I just can't get these people to stop clapping.
It's good seeing you, man. How you been?
How are you doing, man? It's good seeing you again.
I'm doing good, sir. I'm doing good. All is well.
Okay, man. Your company has been really doing some interesting things. You know, I try to keep up with you and other small businesses in this industry. And it's really pretty interesting. I mean, that seemed like a long bio, folks, but actually his company has been doing a lot of different things, and he's been been approached by a lot of different folks to try to work with him and the products that he's designed. So Pierre, what I'm going to do, since I didn't get a chance to set you up beforehand, I'm going to see whether or not I got you going long days, and I want to try to fix your picture a little bit. So work with me for a second while I try to do that. Okay.
That's perfectly fine.
Bring you up that way. It looks a little better. And I'm going to I'm going to fix your name here a little bit. That's right, folks. We work in real time. He's got William Davis. I'm going to add a little Pierre to it so people know.
And that's fine too, sir.
Hey, so Pierre, while I'm doing this, man, go ahead and tell the viewers and the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the business.
Well, I'm Pierre Davis, owner and president of Euphoria Eats. Actually, how I got into the business was kind of a freak accident. When I was in Iraq, I had my issues with anxiety and PTSD and things of that nature. So after I got back home, I didn't know of any other ways I had to deal with everything that I happened to be going through. So I got prescribed a lot of opioids at the VA. Well, the opioids made me a dependent. Like I had to have them every single day, because if I didn't, I would go into this fit or this rage. So I said, right, I knew that there had to be another way around this. And my doctor, he recommended cannabis. He said, well, I really can't tell you this as a doctor, but you should try this. So I said, okay, but I'm kind of like scared, because I think of the word cannabis and I think of the frying pan with the hot egg, right? This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? And so they kind of like,
everybody grew up with that, right?
right. So it just kind of had me scared, and I'm like, there has to be another way of doing this. So along the way of me and my competition cooking, I had a buddy of mine that was in the state of California. He had a niece that had this a debilitating ailment. And they gave us some a Rick Simpson oil. So this oil, it just tasted bad to her, and she's like, oh well, no, I don't want to have it how it is, because it's awful, it's gross. So I said, hey man, send me some a sample. And so he sent me a sample, and I mixed it and I infused it, and I cooked at the time I the taste of the cannabis out of the sauce. I sent it back to him. I sent him 24 mason jars actually. So instead of this guy going and giving these to his niece, he sold them. And so he sold them. He's like, dude, you got to come out here. I said, well, why? He said, you have a lot of people who want to try your products. There's nobody out here that's infusing condiments and barbecue sauce, especially from where you're from. I said, well, okay, sure. So I fly out to Sacramento. I meet the people, had a line of people. And that was the moment that I knew that I was on to something and that I needed to do more to help other people out. I had AIDS patients, epilepsy, PTSD, anxiety. I had a line of people, human beings, who saw value in my product, something that I created. And I just, as I told you, it was an anomaly. And I just never expected it to be how it is now. So fast forward now, I turned the brand from mason jars to store-bought bottles and jars and good and nice looking condiments. And now we're in over 18 states and territories, as over 100 stores, and we're really just trying to expand our brand and expand the story of Euphoria Eats and how we got here and where we're going. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Say that again. Matter of fact, I think I might have screwed up the banner here. I'm looking at it here. I think I left the S off. But Pierre, I did leave the S off. But Pierre, what I want to do is I want you to explain again about what it is that you talked about and how it helped all these people. So basically, you're telling me that you provided one person with something that the physician had recommended to you to create a product. It's just something to help out a friend, or some CBD based product, and he actually was using that product to help out other people, right?
And that's correct. At the time, honestly, it was
right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. So basically, at the time, it was the Rick Simpson oil, and I had never heard of that. I'm like, what is this for? So it's this it's a cannabis based oil. It's used for a lot of debilitating ailments. You know, severe pain and chronic pain and things of that nature. So my initial batch was with Rick Simpson oil. And so from there,
it's called Rick Simpson oil, which I want to. I'm only stopping because some people may not know what that is. Can you explain what that is? Okay, go ahead.
Well, from my understanding of the word, Rick Simpson oil was an oil that was created by this guy named Rick Simpson, I assume.
Okay.
And he created this oil to help medicate people with cannabis instead of with opioids.
Okay.
And that's the education that I got.
And the opioids you actually had gotten addicted to, which they give to a lot of veterans for PTSD, and obviously the hospital use them for different reasons, for painkillers. But all of these opioids versus cannabinoids, which is what's in cannabis, is not addictive and does a better job. And you use that oil in order to create this initial products for a friend. It was CBD based.
Yes, and that's correct. So initially, I created the oil with the intent on helping out his niece, who needed the oil every day for her chronic pain. So again, instead of him doing that, he sold the oil. But along my whole little journey here, I wanted to go back and piggyback off something that you just got finished saying, and that was in terms of the opioids. I personally was addicted to opioids. I know the struggle of being addicted to prescription medication. As a veteran, you come home broken, you need help, you don't know where to go to, and the first thing that I get is a pill bottle. Not that they were trying to harm us, but they didn't know any better at the time. And so it was just one of those kind of things that you kind of become a product of the system, and you just do all the things that addicted people do. And so after that, I discovered cannabis and how it could help me, and I'm opioid free now. And that this has helped my life. This has helped my journey, as well as helped a lot of other people with other ailments. And so fast forward to me helping my friend and his niece, and just seeing the line of patients. I'm talking people needing help, AIDS patients crying in their eyes saying, thank you. Now I could go to the bathroom tonight. Thank you. Now I don't have all this chronic pain all day. And so that's how I knew from that moment on that I had something that I needed to get out here, out to the world, out to the masses. And that's how Euphoria Eats was created.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I want to ask you a couple other questions, but recently that the Biden administration has passed, has had the Health and Human Services or the Veteran Administration to start to look at cannabis and to do research on it to determine which it said in its release that it obviously has health and medical benefits. But talk a little bit about the campaign.
Yeah, so I read the paper every morning, hoping that I can see something in concerns of veterans and cannabis, and how they're going to offer this wonder drug, or as they call it, this wonder drug to people like myself who are struggling with everyday life, having to get up, having to be just an everyday individual. And being a veteran. So the VA won't even have the conversation with us about if medical cannabis will be available to us. So this has been a tug of war and a touchy subject. So when the Biden administration made that announcement, it perked up my ears because I'm like, hey, how do I get in contact with these people to let them know that this is something that the veterans need so bad? Like we're begging for it. But what better way to get it to the veterans than implement other ways of ingestion other than smokables, and things of that nature right there.
Well,
so
your products are edibles. Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes. So when I thought of that, I thought about my company. I said, well, if I could just get in contact with anybody at the VA and say, hey, I will donate my product to get studies done for people like myself that actually want to see a dosed amount of THC towards a veteran with a mental ailment. Hasn't been done before. No study like that has ever been done because they don't want to even have the conversation. But
that's what's so big. That's why this announcement was huge. I want to give you, I want to give the Biden administration a round of applause because this is huge.
Amen, brother. Yes.
And let me tell you, man, it as you well know, cannabis now sits as a class 1 drug, which basically folks don't know what that means is it's in the same category as LSD or heroin or other opiates that are extremely addictive. And there's reasons for that, but we won't get into that now on this show. We don't have enough time. But the fact that the Biden administration is actually doing this is really the first step to really removing it as a class 1 and putting it as a class 2. So it's in there with basically the difference is it has medical benefits and it can be actually used in hospitals and all other type of locations, businesses and other places where it can help people to do exactly what you're talking about, man. So I want to give you a applause, brother. But keep on, man. Tell us more. I'm talking too much. Tell me more.
No, man, it's okay. It's okay. So that was one of the case studies that me and Michael Lawson, who is a great cannabis a psychologist. So we're writing this case study, but we're like, well, who do we give it to? Because veterans need help. Veterans are screaming, and let's face it, a lot of the inner city youth are born with PTSD.
Right.
So it's no different than me going overseas than me going to the inner city right now. It's a lot of people that can benefit from a dosing of cannabis, a small incremental dosages of it. So it was just all the.
I just want to stop you for a second. We're not just talking inner city. We're talking across the country in rural neighborhoods, in suburban neighborhoods, and inner city areas. Everybody, cannabis is medicine. People have ills that they have that CBD can help them with, whether it's anxiety, if they're having these epilepsy attacks, and there's already product on the market that are CBD based for that specific purpose. And, it's just kind of ridiculous. Here in the state of Virginia, last year, over $2 billion, if people don't know, was sold of cannabis in this state. So what's important here, and this year, I hear it's supposed to reach $3 billion. That is a lot of money. So along with people being able to be involved in this industry as small businesses, and whether they're that or either a employee with a W-2, these are huge opportunities for the state. And more importantly, there needs to be equity and expungement. And why don't we talk a little bit about that? I don't know whether you want to talk a little bit about that before we get into your product, but matter of fact, let's hold off on that. Tell us more about your product. We'll get into some more policy later.
Oh, well, yeah, and that's fine. So, yes. So after we came out with all the condiments, and then we started with the infused TV dinners and entrees. So we started out with the infused Louisiana red beans and rice and the infused etouffee, both of which have actual medical dosages in them of CBD, and that is, oh my God, it's so good and mouthwatering. I have to send you some, Mark. And so
I came up with this right here. Infused, folks, there it is.
Oh yeah, so we came up with this right here with the mindset of the everyday having to go to work, having the old football injury. Hey, for lunch I can go get me a tasty treat of CBD and red beans and rice. You know,
Right.
so it's just like, it's not like you're gonna smell it. Oh my God, it must have cannabis in it. No, it has nothing in it. Just taste it. It tastes like red beans and rice. And so it's just the idea of making this an everyday meal, an everyday idea of a meal, and just it being an everyday talking point. You know,
Well,
because 5 years
what,
ago you couldn't really talk about this.
well, here's the other thing with CBD.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, if you use something like ibuprofen, or what's the name for it?
Aspirin.
There's a no. That's like acetaminophen, it's Tylenol.
Okay.
Ibuprofen, it has another brand name to it. But ibuprofen is for inflammations, basically. But you
That's
can't take
correct.
that all the time. My wife is a nurse. She says the doctors really don't want you taking it all the time if you
Right.
have inflammation in your joints or your knees or whatever it may be, and it reduces that inflammation, but it's also killing your liver at the same time. CBD does not do that to you. So those are all
Right.
sort of positive benefits of a product like that, you know. But go ahead, man. I just wanted to add that piece
Yeah,
in
I was
there.
just going to say that exactly. To what you just said. CBD is an everyday thing. You know, it's like an elixir. It helps the inflammation. It helps the menstrual cramp. It helps the football injuries. It helps the old
Mhm.
scrapes, bumps and bruises. You know, it's
Right,
just one of
exactly.
those things that you actually can get every day and not overdose from it ever. You can eat
Right.
enormous amounts of this, and it does absolutely nothing because it's all natural. There
It's
are
all
no
natural.
additives. Right, it's all natural. There are no additives here. This is something that God created to help the human body. You know,
Well, the other
and
thing
now that
to
we,
it is, yeah,
mhm.
I was going to say that you already know is that you have cannabinoids in your body. Your body has that
Yes,
in there already, and the cannabinoids that are in CBD work with the cannabinoids in your body in order to give you the relief that you're getting. It is just an enhancement. I'm not a doctor, but they have some great organizations out there. AChem is one of them, and people who are knowledgeable of the actual products, the CBD consultant like you are, where people can
mhm.
know that. Because listen, I use ibuprofen because I'm an old football player, man. Sometimes
Right.
I need to take like, you know, four.
Likewise.
But go ahead, man. Tell us a little more about your condiments and other stuff you have.
Yeah, so we've been doing that a lot here lately. We just it's working on the dosages and on the messages towards
Mhm.
you know, all the veterans that are in need, because we advocate for the veterans. You know, I get the people, you know, with our social equity and things of that nature, but we geared ours towards the veterans because we're often overlooked and often not talked about at all, because we give literally our lives for this country. And for
Mhm.
us to, I
Exactly.
come home and we just need help. Give us the natural help. Give us something that's going to add years to our life and not anything that's going to take from our lives, or take from the quality of our lives. So, you know, with that in mind,
Mhm.
we just try to gear all of our charity towards our veterans and towards our people with ailments who want to try our tasty treats and condiments.
And the other condiments you have with the hot sauce and the two
Hot
different
sauce.
barbecue sauces, right?
Oh yes, sir. So
What
we have hot sauce.
was
I am so sorry. Yes, sir. We have two hot sauces. I mean, excuse me, a hot sauce and two barbecue sauces. We have ranch, honey mustard, blue cheese, relish, spicy ketchup, spicy mustard, as well as your standard 1,000 Island. Now these right here are our top three. Like, people love these. We rave about them. This is how we got started. This is actually how we went and cut our teeth, and we started out at the USA CBD Expo. People
Mhm.
were in line for this because they had never seen a condiment line that looks
Yeah.
quite like ours and quite tastes like ours. Like, we have a
Mhm.
unique Louisiana flavor. Every recipe from everything that we make is out of Louisiana. All the recipes are my family's from way back
Mhm.
when. I just happen to go and package it all up and put it into a bottle and make it into a tasty treat and entrees. And so now the message is, how do we get it into your market? Well, you go up to your local CBD store and ask them, hey, when are you going to get you some Euphoria Eats on the shelves? You know, and
Right.
that's how we get into your market. And you can also can go on our website, www.euphoriaeats.com, go to our Instagram, and go to our
Well,
Facebook.
I put in there at the bottom euphoriaeatsco.com. Is that correct?
And
Or
that's the other
okay.
one. And
Okay.
that's the other one. It's two websites.
Both of them
So
go
either
there.
one,
Okay. Yeah.
yes, sir, they automatically direct you straight to the other one. So either one of those two, it sends you straight to the website. It tells you about me. It tells you about our story, and it tells you about our mission and our vision for the future of cannabis. The future of cannabis is going to be eaten, not smoked.
Well, let me tell you this, and you know, cannabis is medicine, and it's just really a pleasure knowing you and knowing the sort of products that you have. And folks, I've tried some of the hot sauces and barbecue sauce. Trust me, it is good. Yeah. It's a great product. Now let's talk a little bit about this from a business perspective, if we can.
Okay.
Now that's when we get back to the expungement and we get back to the equity piece, because people that are in this business, everyone knows. Well, not everyone knows, but I'll just say it. Because of the laws and the enforcement of the cannabis laws, or the quote unquote marijuana laws, a lot of African Americans, Latinos, and basically other people who use no more of that product than anyone else, the white people, had been put in jail as a result of that, and have terrible records that follow them and prevent them, whether or not they go on to get their college degree, or it happened to them while they were in college. They got stuck with, you know, a blunt or whatever it is, and they have these things on their record. So one of the things that, you know, you can't sell $3 billion worth of this product and turn around and put other people in jail for it. You got to clear their records. That's expungement, or it's Senator Scott Servo on a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying, well, it's not expungement, Mark. What they call it something else. I can't think of the term, but essentially they get rid of it from ever being on your record. And that's what needs to be happening, so people can actually get into the business or go on with their lives and not have them hunt them. But let's talk about the equity piece now. So from an equity perspective, and I want your opinions on this, it's got to make sure that these the sale of the cannabis in the various different states around the country needs to make room for people, particularly African Americans, Latinos, and other folks, to make sure who's been disproportionately affected or incarcerated or over policed around this thing that they're selling billions of dollars of it for now. We want to make sure that companies like yours get investment dollars, that that the states or and other private entities make sure that these companies like yours get an opportunity to get on those shelves in your local store. I want to hear your opinions about that as I set it up for you, Pierre.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's major, because just think about it. We can't get any banking. We can't get any investment unless it's private investment. And within our community, who really can invest within our community? We don't have the wealth. So it's really hard for us to really get on the store shelves, because you have to pay a price to get in a spot on a shelf in a store. A lot of people don't know that, but that, you know, and that costs money. And then they ask you for, let's say, 1,000 bottles initially, and you're out of now maybe $5,000, you know? So on top of that, it just makes it hard for us to even go and get an investor, because you can't bank in cannabis as of now. Or you can go to a select bank that does, but they do not do it in terms of investment. E-commerce, yes. Investment, no. So it just makes it hard, because it's like you go and police us or go and incarcerate us disproportionately. But then when it comes time for investment into our community and investment into our businesses, so we can attain their wealth for our families for generations, it's not there, it's non-existent. So it's like, where do we go to find this help for companies as like mine, who have been thriving off my own back, you know, off my own sweat and equity? You know, where do we go to find help? There is no answer. We cannot go anywhere. So if if the government actually gave us, say, grants, you know, to come in and invest in our companies, to make our companies a national thing, you know, make it to where everybody can have equal footing, not just the people who already have the wealth, who already have the money. What about the people that's like us, who have these ingenious ideas, who have superior products? We don't have anybody in our corner to say, hey, I'm going to go and push you up to where everybody else is, because they can outspend us, because they have deeper pockets.
Well, what we do have on our side as citizens is the ability to make sure that our political representatives that are passing the laws that cover equity, that cover things like expungement, the laws that are being passed in the various different 50 states around the country. I think we're up to 22 states that all have different laws. You've got the Biden. So that's really where you have to get involved as a small business person, whether you're a federal contractor or whether or not you're in the cannabis business, that you need to make sure that there's favorable legislation that's going to address your small business needs. And that's the reason why I have you on the show, so you can tell that story.
Well, thank you.
They can see your product. You've been successful at this. I mean, I know he's being modest. A lot of people have approached Pierre, offering him some pretty significant sums of money, but it's not always about the money you're offered. It's about the term.
Right. And might I add this right here?
Business out there, but
that's okay. But let me add this right here. Yeah. It's about you giving us fair value for our companies. That's the main thing, because it's like you've done all this hard work, you've done all this sweat equity, you've done this, you've done that, you've done this, you've done that, and they offer you a drop in the bucket. Well, here you have a guy over here with an idea who can get $10 million seed money with just a freaking idea, no product,
no
but
proof,
just an idea. Nothing.
This is the thing that people need to know. You've been selling this product, a lot of it. Okay.
Yes.
Just off of your own. So the point is this is where we're talking about equity. And this is not new for the government. The government has invested in oil companies and land for people to go out and settle things. They give subsidies to agricultural companies. Listen, this is what the legislation is about. And that's why your vote is so important. That is why voting rights is so important. Local, state, and federal, so you can get laws that represent the interests of the community. And it's our tax money. We're giving it to the government, local, state, and government. We have a right to impact the laws that are there that can better help the entire community in our particular local communities. So I'm just really happy to have you on the show, Pierre. You've done it.
Hey, I appreciate it, and I would love to come back and just give you guys some more insight about what we're doing on the ground and what we're doing, how we're helping out the veterans, how we're helping the local community, and how we're helping the taste of cannabis. That's the main thing, pushing the buck forward and getting people to having these tough conversations. So I appreciate you guys for having me on. And Mark, as always, brother, thank you. I'm honored, truly honored.
It's my honor, trust me. And we are going to have you on, but let's say when we have you on again, we'll talk specifically about the directive passed by the Biden administration and how we can get you involved in that. I know we have some folks here in Virginia, and then folks that you have obviously down in where you're from. You're actually in Texas, not Louisiana, right?
I'm at my house in Texas right now, but I have a house in Louisiana that I live in too. So it's kind of like I'm back and forth.
You're back and forth. Yes, sir. Go back and forth.
Yeah, right. You know, it's just up the street. You know, it's not too far.
Okay, not too far. But hey, I look forward to having you back. Before I do that, Pierre, I want to ask you one thing I ask all my guests. And the last thing I really asked them, we'll have a show dedicated to this policy stuff and other things we talked about. We'll have you back, guaranteed. Okay. But what I want to do is ask you, if you were king for a day and you had that magic scepter and you could have something instantly done just by you basically saying, let it be so, and tap that magic scepter, what would be the first thing you do?
Oh, man. Oh. Mark, you know me, man. I'm a little out there. Well,
You got the power, man. Just say it. It's going to get done.
I would eradicate homelessness and hunger. And that'll be the first thing I would do, because nobody should go hungry and everybody should have a warm belly and a roof over their head. I once was homeless, like myself. I know the feeling of it, and I know the emptiness of that in itself. I would really eradicate homelessness and hunger. I would end it. There's no need for it. I want to feed everybody. I want to feed everybody, Mark. I want to feed everybody.
There you go. And folks, that gives you a insight to who this person is. It's not about how much money you can make or all these different things. It's how you can help people. Cannabis is medicine. And your motivation for doing what you do, you wanted to help somebody. That's how you got to the business. And it just happened to turn into something where you could turn it out. So it's,
right.
Congratulations, man. So listen.
Godsend, brother.
I'm glad to have you here. As I do my little production work here, I'm going to basically give you that whole, well, I want to clap you out because you've done a good job. So I want to make sure that, hey, folks, give Pierre a round of applause. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you again. I love having great guests on the show. And also, we want to close you out with a little bit of Bob, man. So okay, there we go.
Cool.
I appreciate you being on the show. Come back. We're going to have you back at the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show live. Thank you, Pierre. See you later, man. Oh, yeah, there it is. We'll see you later, man.